In the last 2 to 3 decades, multiple people have reported seeing a strange humanoid creature in Hungary. Common features of the sightings are that these creatures are usually roughly human-sized or slightly taller. Their bodies are thin, yet muscular, and they are covered with short, light silver or yellowish shiny fur. Their backs are hunched, their hands are much longer than ours, and they can run on all fours. They look very similar to how the so-called rakes, crawlers, wendigos, fleshgaits, and skinwalkers are described. The locals call these beings fanyuvo, meaning the tree skinner. And yes, I'm aware that the skinwalker is an evil shape-shifting shaman, while the wendigo is a cannibal in Native American folklore. However, people use these terms incorrectly, so now I'm forced to do so as well. Anyway, let's start the video. This topic was brought to the public's attention by 2 young researchers towards the end of the 2000s, who themselves, by the way, were skeptical about the topic. They are Aros Istvan and Miskolci Laszlo, the authors and admins of a cryptid and cryptozoology blog. At the time, they came across several similar reports from separate sources and theorized that they might be about the same creature. They named this creature the Tree Skinner of Matronovec because there had been several sightings around that village, while the Tree Skinner is the name of a character from a local fairy tale. Although, I've also heard that they got this name because these creatures peel the bark off trees as they climb them. I have done some research on the subject and visited several places where this creature has been sighted. We found this tree in one of those places. As you can see in the video, something peeled off a very large surface from the bark of the tree, and very high as well. Of course, it is possible that this phenomenon was caused by some sort of disease, or perhaps by some well-known animal found in Hungary. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I have never seen a tree that looks like this anywhere else. In any case, since the subject came into the public consciousness, some videos and photos of these creatures have appeared on the internet, which may prove their existence, to some people at least. The first image appeared on the cryptid blog in August of 2012. The picture was submitted by a reader named Horvath Robert, who according to his account, was cycling around the countryside when he spotted something gray on the road. As he approached this gray thing, it stood up and started running in front of his bike, then suddenly jumped over the tape barrier. Robert managed to capture this moment with his phone. After that, the creature disappeared into the forest. In his letter, Robert also noted that based on the noises, he was moving very fast on the difficult terrain, and he considers it unimaginable that a human being could be able to do this. In 2015, a video titled "The Tree Skinner of Kunsigiet" was uploaded to YouTube. The recording is not the best, as it was made with a phone, and there is also a huge fog. Regardless, you can see that some human-like, relatively human-sized creature is moving across the dirt road with a strange 4-handed hopping gait. The video was taken somewhere between Otaveni and Kunsigiet, which is just a few kilometers from the Bolgani Bridge, where Horvath Robert's photo was taken. Back in the summer of 2021, I received an email that someone had photographed a monkey man-like creature in the northeastern part of Hungary. The email included this picture. I won't go into the details because I already made a video about it, which I will link in the description. In that video, I said that it is possible that several different creatures could be behind the tree skinner phenomenon, but who knows? Anyway, the next footage we're going to look at, or more precisely, listen to, was uploaded to YouTube 2 years ago under the title, "Camping, Spooky Night Sounds Near Barna." This is the recording. According to the uploader of the video, this sound belongs to a golden jackal. I'm not saying it isn't, but I researched the sounds of the golden jackal, and I haven't heard such a powerful howl in any of the recordings I was able to get my hands on. What makes this recording interesting for us is the fact that Barna, where the recording took place, is right next to the villages of Matronovac and Matratetanieri, where multiple eyewitness accounts of these creatures come from, so it is possible that this voice belongs to a tree skinner. The reason why I decided to re-edit this video is due to these two videos which were posted by Mol Georgi on his YouTube channel. I had been convinced they were genuine, but it turns out that he has admitted to making them using CGI software. I reached out to Georgi myself, and he informed me that he'd been inspired by tree skinner sightings in the area, but had only made these videos for fun, never intending for them to be taken seriously. This is pretty embarrassing, considering that I said I thought these videos were real, and I even visited the location in one of them. But such is life. We lose some, and then we lose some. I collected all of the sightings that I found on the internet and heard from other sources as well, which there are around 30 of, and I have marked them on this map. As you can see, the sightings are mostly concentrated to the northern part of the country. I can't say whether there is a particular reason or any significance for this. However, there are more mountains and forests in this part of Hungary, which may or may not play a part in this. Reading these reports and talking to the eyewitnesses, I noticed that some people described what they saw as having completely human-like legs, while others said that they had legs that bent back at the knees, like quadrupedal animals. There were also some people who reported that these creatures had hair. However, all accounts agreed that these creatures were thin and muscular, with long arms and large eyes. Everyone I spoke to personally said that they looked very human, and no one saw the creature possessing any sort of genitalia. I have a personal story related to these beings, which I think can help us understand a couple things about them. In the spring of 2021, one of my acquaintances who was also interested in the topic visited a local witness in a village near the city of Székesfehérvár. This eyewitness has previously seen a large gray humanoid being in the woods surrounding his village sitting at one of the trees, so my acquaintance decided to look around that area. In a dirt patch near the woods, he noticed strange footprints which he took photos of and then sent to me. Because of this, me and two of my other friends decided to travel there that night and check the place out. By then, my acquaintance had already left, but we met with the local eyewitness, and the four of us set off to where the footprints were. For this, we had to make our way through the forest. When we entered the woods, suddenly everything became quiet. The crickets stopped chirping, and all four of us had the feeling that someone was watching us. In the international cryptid community, there's this phenomenon simply referred to as the silence, and well, this is what we were experiencing. I remember when we walked along the forest road, each of us nervously looked behind us from time to time to see if someone was coming up behind us. One of my friends who was with us and did not believe in the existence of the tree skinner suddenly started to believe in it for some reason. I remember that he took out his phone and said something like he was ready to take pictures if something were to happen. Even back then, I had a feeling that these creatures would not appreciate if they were photographed. The oppressing feeling finally ended when we got out of the woods and reached the dirt area where the footprints were. Whatever left them walked on four legs. The front and back legs were very different. The shape of the hind legs was slightly rounded. However, the print of the foreleg looked as if somebody pressed their hand into the ground without bending their thumb. When I was there, I put my hand in one of those tracks, and it fit almost perfectly. My skeptical friend, however, said that the tracks belonged to a bear. When we went back through the forest, the spooky feeling was no longer present, or at least it wasn't as intense. A few days later, I had a dream about the incident. In my dream, there were four of us, me and the three other guys who were there that night. We saw one of these creatures with long brown hair or a mane running into a small wooded area. We came up with the idea that the four of us should stand around this wooded patch from four different sides, and when the creature ran out, at least one of us would be able to photograph it. But I had the feeling that this creature wouldn't want that, so I put my phone away, and of course, that's why this thing ran out of the woods where I was. When I woke up, first I thought that I had spent way too much time researching the subject, and it was influencing my dreams, or maybe that the event in the forest a few days ago had gotten me a bit too excited. Nevertheless, I told the others about it. A few days later, My skeptical friend reluctantly told me that he had had a very similar dream to my own. He said that in his dream, the four of us that had been walking that night were walking through a forest when we stumbled upon a cabin. Such a creature crouched by the steps of the wooden house. My friend described him as having a thin, muscular body, short, light yellowish fur, long brown hair, big eyes, and a friendly, very human face. My friend asked him if he could take a picture, and the creature indicated with his eyes that he could not. That's when I understood that my dream wasn't a coincidence. I have heard stories of a humanoid cryptid being able to communicate telepathically with someone after looking them straight into their eyes. I wouldn't be surprised if the tree skinner was also capable of telepathy and sending dreams, because to me it seems that what me and my friend both dreamed were actually telepathic messages from these beings. But mine wasn't the only story to suggest that these creatures might have powers which we could describe with the word magic. Another friend of mine told me that one night she woke up in the middle of the night unable to move except for her head. When she looked to the side, she saw that there was this tall, thin, human-like figure standing by her bed. She remembers that what she saw might have been gray, with long arms, and maybe hairy, but she wasn't entirely sure because it was dark. However, she clearly remembers that the creature's eyes glowed green, just like the creature in this picture. She said that after she woke up, the creature walked out of her sight, and she fell back to sleep. After hearing this, the question immediately occurred to me: did she see the tree skinner that night? Later, I came across a similar story which a lady from a town called Rake told me. She said that after she and her roommate moved into a new house, they experienced quite a few strange events. It all started with seeing a ball of light flying through the house. After that, they started hearing strange noises. Objects disappeared from where they left them, and then they reappeared in completely random places. After waking up, bruises and claw marks were regularly found on their bodies. Her roommate once saw a black shadowy figure in the house, and she once saw this skinny, muscular, gray, bald humanoid being standing over 2 meters tall, hunched over, with very long arms whose legs bent backwards, walking past the bedroom door, staring straight into her eyes. Well, the creature she describes matches the description of the tree skinner. If these two stories are true, it clearly suggests that these creatures are not simply an animal, but something much more advanced. Moreover, one of the channel's subscribers told me a similar story. This man told me that in 2013, when he lived in a village near the Ukrainian border, he often went home in the evenings through the forest next to his village, and multiple times he had the uncomfortable feeling that something was following and watching him. The scary thing was that this feeling often remained even when he had already entered the village. He told me that on a couple of occasions, he managed to catch a glimpse of what was trailing him on the way home. What he saw he described as a tall, gray, long-armed humanoid creature with a round face and large round glowing white eyes. After he saw this creature, he dreamed several times that this being was standing in his room and watching him while he was sleeping. The Hungarian YouTuber named Paxel made a video about this creature a year ago. The reason why I bring this up is because there are 2 comments in the comment section of that video which I would like to read to you. The first one was written by a user named Roland Lux. I quote, "I don't claim that this is the creature I have seen, but it looked pretty close. One night around 1 in the morning, I was driving home from one of my friend's places, and I was going through this wooded area, when suddenly something stepped out in front of me. It must have been as wide as my car. It had grayish off-white color. It didn't look like any of the animals living there. It was bigger and also walked on all 4s. I hit it with my car, so I immediately stood aside to see what had happened, but nothing was damaged. There was nothing on the wheels or on the front of the car. It was as if nothing had fallen victim to me. Looking back, there was nothing lying on the road either, not even a trace, even though when I hit it, it made a big loud noise. Since then, I still have no idea what it was, mainly because of its color. Foxes, deers, badgers are all excluded due to their size or color. Another thing that raises questions for me is that I was going at 90. I am sure that I caught it nicely with at least half of the car, yet still there was no sign of what I had hit, not even a crack on the car. Maybe the problem's with me. but I find it very unexplainable. End of the quote. The other comment was written by the user Paxi Oliver. I quote, "It happened sometime in the fall of 2004 when I was traveling with my car to a training course. In late autumn, after 5 p.m., I was driving somewhere in the Bakuni mountain. The road was winding, so I slowly drove approximately at the speed of 60 to 80 kilometers per hour in a somewhat foggy weather. I was very focused not to go off the road. Then, all of a sudden, a human figure passed in front of the car from the right side relatively slowly, in my opinion only few centimeters in front of me, and when he got to the driver's side of the window, he seemed to stop for a moment and then look at me. Then he disappeared. As soon as I realized it, I hit the brakes hard and stopped after a few moments. I was sweating in an instant. At first I thought I was in a residential area, but everything was so dark. I didn't know what to do. I didn't detect any noise indicating a collision. I lowered the window a few centimeters and listened for a short time, but I didn't detect anything unusual. After that, I continued driving. The first thing I did when I arrived at the training center was tell my classmates about the incident. We called the local police station and recorded all paperwork. I expected someone to report an accident from that place, but nothing like that was made. I think it is impossible for someone to get in front of a car that's going at a speed of 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, then look through the window at a distance of a few centimeters and not get hit by it. To this day, I shiver when I remember what happened that day." End of the quote. Later, I managed to talk to the writer of the comment, who said to me that what he saw looked gray in color. Another interesting thing is that I have other reports from people who claim to have seen the tree skinner in the area. These two stories suggest to me that these beings are able to either jump into our plane of existence at will, a sort of dimensional shift, or they can teleport, or they can take on a kind of immaterial spirit form or something similar. From these stories, we can deduce why we know so little about these creatures. For my own story, it became clear to me that they would prefer to remain hidden, and with the physical and supernatural abilities they possess, this cannot be as difficult as we first might think. Of course, the question arises, if these beings come here from another place, then why do they do so? Well, from the reports I've read, it suggests to me that they simply come here to eat. The tree skinner is also called the Hungarian cryptid, but I don't think you can stumble upon them in our country. There are cryptids on the internet called crawlers, fleshgaits, wendigos, rakes, and watchers, but their description is quite similar to the tree skinner. And yes, I am aware that most of the stories online about them are just fiction, but if someone were to actually see such a creature in the Anglosphere, and he or she decides to write about it online, it will probably get lost in the thick of the creepypastas. And maybe that's by design. Regardless of this, I have found a few foreign reports about crawlers or similar creatures that were, in principle, intended as authentic reports. Of course, whether they are true is another question. Anyway, if someone were to ask my opinion about what these creatures are, I would say that they are humans. Not humans like you or me, but humans nonetheless. Why else would they look so similar to us? They are humans who are at a higher level of development compared to what we represent, at least from a spiritual point of view. And I also think the reason why some of the reports described them as having legs like us is because those specimens are actually hybrids between them and us. As always, if you've seen anything interesting or you just have questions, please feel free to write to the email address in the description. And if you've watched my video all the way to the end, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, there's two ways. Holy crap, dude, this trail going on forever. It just got really quiet really fast.